Hey, before we get started in this episode, go ahead and follow, like, and share. If you've been impacted by this podcast or you feel like you can relate at all, maybe there's somebody out there that might be able to as well. So go ahead and like, follow, share, get the word out there, and thank you for being a part of Catch My Six. Hey guys, today's episode we talk about adoption. It is National Adoption Awareness Month, and so today we decided to have a friend on that knows about adoption. He's actually been adopted. Myself and my family have also adopted. So we're just talking about our specific experience with adoption and kind of what we went through. The stories shared are not a generalization of the adoption system or of all experiences within the adoption system. It is just specifically our own. Um, Tim, what are some of your thoughts? And I really like what you said there, as far as like there's a long history between the three of us that a lot of that history doesn't get shared within this episode, but there that history does exist between us. So some of the things that are asked, or the way that Mark kind of answers the questions, might seem a little um, uncomfortable, but it's just due to the topic itself of adoption. And I appreciate you saying that, Tim. Mark, how did you feel about the episode?
Hi, in my opinion, your questions were very well thought out, um, but at the same time, very tough. I mean, like you guys said, adoption is a very hard subject to talk about. Um, there's a lot of other questions that people don't really understand, or they we have the background that they don't have. Um, so, like as you said, I may have sounded uncomfortable, but all that stemmed from my personal feelings of it being like in my history, which stemmed from that causing a lot of uncomfortability for me in my personal life, along with me, my wife, and my now kids. So I can't take my feelings out of those answers. So that's mainly why I sounded uncomfortable. But overall, you guys brought me on, and it was great. Thanks, guys, for having me.
I appreciate that, Mark. Yeah, it is kind of a exposing experience, right? Like you have to be kind of transparent with your answers if you want to be honest with the audience, right?
Yes, yes. You can't pretty much hold back any of things. Like your questions stemmed into or dove into a lot of my personal feelings, which I was very uncomfortable with sharing. And you guys, you can't take that out. Otherwise, you guys, we can't be transparent or honest with the listeners.
I appreciate what you said there. So yeah, it was uncomfortable for you, but I want to reiterate, nothing you shared or nothing that we talked about was, forced, right? Like you wanted to share this for people out there that have experienced the same situation that you have or are curious about adoption, right?
Exactly.
Sweet, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you talking. Like Mark said, and Tim said, this is a very exposing episode. It requires a lot of transparency, and we appreciate you guys as a listener, as appreciating and taking in what we're talking about. And in order to
Mhm.
be honest with you guys, and in order to be truthful with you guys, we have to lay it all on the line, and that's kind of what this episode does. So thanks again, and I hope you guys enjoy the episode. So, welcome back to another episode of Catch My Six. Man, we got a pretty awesome guest with us today. So, not only do we have Tim, as usual, we have a really good friend of mine, Mark. We served together in Abilene, Texas for a few years. And, he's just an all around great guy. So, this month of November, if you guys don't know, is Adoption Month. And it's a super special month to me because I have two children of mine that were adopted on this very day, November 13th, which 5 years ago when we adopted was on a Friday. So it's literally to the day, to like the actual day of the week that we adopted. So it's pretty awesome. And Mark was invited on to share his story. He is also adopted. And so that's kind of what we're going over today. Welcome, Mark. How are you, man?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem, man. So how is everything, man? It's been a while.
That's good. Good. Just living it up here in Abilene, Texas. Busy life with family of five now.
So a family of five, right? Not five kids.
No, family of five. My wife and three kids. No, I don't think I
Okay,
could handle five kids. I've balded enough.
Yeah,
nice.
that'd be a little rough having five small ones running around the house and just two of you to kind of keep them all wrangled. I don't know how Casey does it with four.
Yeah, I don't know how I do it either. Being outnumbered every day is no joke.
Definitely outnumbered.
So you have three children, right? And you said one of them is a stepson, correct? Awesome. That's that's pretty cool, man. How's that family dynamic with your stepson? He's still pretty young, right?
Yes, he is four. His name's Jackson. I met him through my wife, I guess. He was about 1.5 at the time when we got married, but he's four now. Just busy, like fast, growing quickly. Pretty great seeing him going from 1 to 4. They grow up really fast at this time of age.
Yeah, that's it's definitely the truth. Like every single day is different. Like um if it was kind of crazy. I saw somewhere that like if you choose today not to hold your kids, literally the very next day they might not even want to be held. So take every day that like you can to take as many opportunities as you can with your kids.
Oh
Yeah,
my god, yeah. Finn is just like that. There'll be days where he's like, "Don't touch me. I don't want to be touched." Or like in the mornings, we'll try to be like, "Hey Finn, like get around," and like we'll try to be sweet, and he's like, "Don't touch me. I don't want to." Like he's like, "Get away, stop." And then there's like, I'll come home from work, and the last thing I want to do is like lay on the couch and like cuddle my kid because I'm like overstimulated from work, and he'll be like, "Hey dad, oh hey, can we cuddle? Can we cuddle right now?" And like you can't say no because it's adorable that your kid wants to cuddle you, but it's still like one of those things where it's just like, I enjoy it when it happens, but it's always the wrong timing. Like 90% of the time, it's just bad timing.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally experienced the exact same thing. Except you have one, right, Tim?
Yeah, just the one. We
Yeah,
are not
just
having
Finn.
more.
So yeah, for me, when I come home, literally I have all four of them. Because my oldest is 8, and my youngest is gonna be 4 this coming year, in a few months actually. But yeah, they all like the minute the door opens, they're like, "Daddy," and they just like crush me at the door, and I'm just like, "All right, sweet." Luckily I don't have a job where I'm like around people all day, except for like the very few that I work with. But Tim, I couldn't imagine what you go through because you're around like student type, like young airmen that require your attention all the time, right?
I mean, I'm answering questions daily, like answering, and it's not so much answering questions. It's the fact that every new class, it's the same questions over and over and over again. So it's not like they're bad questions, but it's just answering the same questions. All right. Hey, yeah. So, Mark, how's it going with you? Pressing on to our guest, our guest of the show highlight.
It's going good. I'm on baby leave till December, so it's nice, slow pace way to the end of the year. This year's been, kind of interesting with COVID. Um, Everyone couldn't make up their minds with schedules and stuff like that, so it's just busy, normal maintenance life, but every day is a different. How do I put it? Without
Challenge.
yeah, a challenge because you don't know. They'll be like, yeah, we're going to do this one day and then we're going to switch it all up and then merge all of you together. And then the next day that didn't work. So we're going to try this, but it's all in the same week. And then there's times where it's like different weeks. So it's like, COVID's like that whole, I'm sure, with guys with like your students and stuff, you had that whole, you couldn't be there, but at the same time they had to. We did the same thing, compacted with the same maintenance flying, pilots wanted to fly. And then the normal maintenance stuff of like, hey, we need to do this. And then every so often we get in a role and then someone would, have COVID and then just throw it in for another loop and we're all messed up and the cog in the wheel kind of skips a beat and then we got to get right back into it.
Man, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yep. As
So
if maintenance wasn't confusing enough.
how did that affect the family? Because I can't imagine, being at work and being demanded. Like I'm assuming you worked probably like what 12s, if not longer.
We were working 10s and then we were working 12s after that. And then like ended up being like closer to 13 sometimes.
Gotcha. So how did that affect the family? Because I can't imagine not only going to work and being overworked because of the lack of personnel, but also coming home and having to kind of turn that off and be available for your family.
It was rough. We had personal, normal family issues, as well as the work. Like I got back from a deployment in January. My wife was working, and then COVID hit, and then we were right before COVID hit. We decided to try for our third, and then we got the normal stress of buying a new car. She was pregnant, and then which was great. We were excited for that. Then she got laid off because of all this because her job entailed her to go into doctors' offices, which they were not letting anybody else come in besides patients. So she really couldn't do her job, so they laid everybody off at her company, and that happened. And then I was on 12s and got handpicked for that, I guess. So she was stressed out, and then on top of all that, newly pregnant, and then coming back after working 12-hour shifts and being gone all day, and then getting bombarded with family stuff and stress of a new car and all this extra stuff it was stressful, to say the least.
Dude, I couldn't even imagine. I've been fortunate enough, and I think Tim probably has the same fortune, but we've been able to not have the massive stress of the 14 or 12 to 13-hour days and so on and so forth. But COVID really has thrown, everything for a loop. Like everything's pretty much changed. The world of, going to work has kind of changed to being able to identify that a lot of jobs out there can be done from home, you know, and effectively, but I mean, that's neither here nor there. That's for a later podcast episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is less about COVID and more about Mark's experience with his adoption as a child, and then how that relates with Casey and his adoption experience with his two children.
Yeah. So, thanks for the segue there, Tim. How growing up, when did you first find out you were adopted, Mark?
Right from the beginning. So I was in the system in Florida. Well, I was originally born in New Hampshire, and then I guess my biological mom moved down to Florida at one point when I was very, very young, around a year, I believe. But I was not originally, I was adopted at 5.5. So I remember that most of that process, like it's little blips here and there. Most of us kind of remember around that time frame. But from 5.5, I remember little blips of like me on visitations with my adoptive parents, and then I remember pulling out of the driveway of my foster home, as well as some of the um, things that I did during the foster home, like while in foster care. So like I remember all of that, and then the blur was pretty much the time I got adopted to a little bit after that. Like I don't remember a whole lot from my first initial, I guess 6 months roughly of that. Like children being 5.5 and being stressed and thrown into a new scenario and a new family was probably just thrown for its loop, and I couldn't quite remember that. But I do remember blips of being adopted at 5.5. Um, Pretty good. It was pretty. You can edit all this. I already forgot what I was gonna say. Sorry.
No,
No, just keep. Yeah,
yeah, no,
it's all good.
it's all good. Like I said, we're just here BSing, man. So, um, feel free to say whatever you want to say, how you want to say it. But on that point, the 5.5, you're right. I can't imagine the kind of stress that you went through, even if you don't remember it. And our brains are wired to protect us. So a lot of traumatic experiences in our life, our brains are wired to drop those memories and basically give you a blank space for whatever happened in that point, so that you don't really remember, or it'll like overlay a better memory so that you kind of don't remember the negative thing that happened during that time. um, but you're saying that during like 5.5, you were transitioning from the foster system to your adoptive family, right?
Yes.
Okay, so when did you actually enter into the foster care system? Do you remember that?
I was told. I don't remember any of that, but I was told by my mom that I was um, around round one, I believe.
So do you say your mom told you that? Are you pretty close with your mom?
Like my
Like your
adopted
biological
mom.
mom?
No, I haven't been in contact with her since I was 2 or 3.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So phasing into the adoptive family, who is your family now? You basically came from a foster system. How is your foster family?
My so I got lucky. You hear a lot of bad stories about the foster system. There's a lot of negative light shown on that, but not a whole lot of positive light on it. Um, I was had a great family. They had 3 older siblings of their own who were in and out of college. Came home from during the summers. I remember most of that, and a lot of pictures pieced together, smaller memories. But they were great. I'm still in contact with her. Um, my foster dad, he passed away like roughly 10 years ago, but she's doing great. She's actually um, adopted somebody of her own, like one of her foster parents or foster children. Sorry. So like she's doing great. I was lucky enough to have like a great family that was very religious, very involved in the community, and I never moved. Like you hear stories about kids that move and get thrown from foster home to or orphanage, or they move around a lot. I was put in that home, and then I 4 years later was adopted from that home. So I got very lucky and didn't move around a lot, and a lot less stress on a toddler.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome, man. That because that was kind of something I was worried about asking because you never know what you're gonna get. Um, but that's really good to hear. So when you actually transferred into your or transitioned into your adopted family, it was actually kind of a traumatic experience because you were leaving something that you felt like was home into an adoptive family, right?
Yeah.
Man. But you came into a nice family, right? Because I bet your adoptive mom, right?
Yes. Yes, you
And
have.
yeah,
Yeah.
She's wonderful, by the way.
Yeah, she is. She asks about you quite often. Asks how you're doing. um,
Yeah, yeah, it's real hard to forget Casey.
Yeah, it really is. Thanks, guys.
So what was your question, Casey? I already forgot it.
No, it's totally fine. So you transferred from your foster family into your adoptive family, right?
Yes.
And you said that was great. How about your foster dad? Have I ever met him?
I don't think so. No, he's they were. I think my mom came. They split a few years ago, so she's moved back to Florida. But he hasn't come down for a couple years, so I don't think you've met him. But he's great as well. Um, he's I don't know. He's always wanted to be a dad, and he did a great job. I think they both did actually. So the transition was great. I'm sure they can say, "Hey, we messed up on a lot of things," and now me being a dad know exactly how they felt.
Yeah.
We kind of were thrown. They were thrown into it. Well, they weren't thrown into it, but no one's ever ready. They say they are, but no one ever is, because each instance is different for everybody. So um, they'll say that, hey, we should have done this, that, and the other, but overall, how I turned out, they did a great job.
Hindsight's always 2020. Like I I thought I was ready to have a kid, and there's just so many things you just can't prepare for being a father, like for being a parent. You can't prep for it. There's no such thing as being financially stable enough. There's no such thing as having the right job. There's no
Yeah,
such thing as the right time. By the time you get to the right time, you probably can't have kids anymore. Like there's a reason grandparents make great like babysitters. It's
yeah,
because they've already have the experience of raising children. Like
very true.
the best parents are parents that have had children already. So like your first are always going to be more difficult. They're always going to have like you're gonna be like, there's no way. Like when I walked into my kid's room when he was 2 years old and he got into his diaper and smeared crap all over the walls. Nobody prepared. There's nothing to prepare for that. You
You had a
can't
lot for
yeah
words.
yeah you can't prepare for the shock of seeing your kids feces just smeared all over the wall and they're just like having a blast. Like it's just
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. My daughter used to do that. I was like, "What is going on?" There's a closet full of toys, but I guess your dirty diaper is fun too.
Yeah, you don't know what to say. Like everyone was like in that instance, they're thinking about it, and they're like, yeah, I'd say this or I'd do that, and then it happens, and you just walk in, you just stare at them, and you see the joy in their face, and you're like, I can't really be mad, but I really want to be mad. Should I be mad? And a whole bunch of feelings run through your head, and you're like, I don't know how to react to this. Like I have to say that that's wrong, but I can't believe you just did that.
Yeah. I then you're looking at him like, well, I'm glad I'm not the only one that does it in the house now, you know?
I don't know if my wife would still be with me if I was doing that.
But getting back on track. So you said that your adoptive father obviously would probably question some of his decisions, as most parents do. If there's any parent out there that does not question their decisions, then I mean, I don't even know how to respond to that.
Yeah,
But
they must be a sociopath or something. Every
yeah,
parent has
yeah,
doubts about something, some anxiety that something they had said yesterday or the day before that they're like, "Oh my god, I hope my kid doesn't remember that."
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But what about your biological father? You ever reach out to him or try and find him?
So my half sister reached out a couple years, about a year ago, right before I deployed. Um, there's always been that wonder of like what type of person he was, or who was he. Um, my biological mom and him weren't together. By the time like I was born, he was already remarried, had other kids as well. So things were kind of rocky, I guess, with them. But um, my half sister reached out, and part of me felt guilty because my mom and dad always like my adoptive mom and dad always gave me the option of like, hey, you can have contact with them, like you can, but like just I don't know, just because you have a kid doesn't make you a parent, and I kind of felt kind of like I was betraying my adoptive parents. And then then I started thinking about, do I really want to like bring up that old history, and do I want to do that? Because I already had two kids of my own, and I was like years from thinking about them actually. So I kind of talked with my half sister, and she was really excited because I guess they were kind of trying to meet me or have contact with me, and they, the New Hampshire system sent like, letters to every address I ever lived in for the last 5 years. I got roommates I haven't seen in a while say, "Hey, I got a letter for you." But I kind of it dwindled out. I was like, "Yeah, maybe I would," but she was excited and kind of freaked me out. So I haven't really talked to them since. Kind of sounds bad, but I'm not quite. My parents are my parents, and they know who they are, and I know who they are, and kind of just, I don't know. It's a feeling that I can't quite explain.
Yeah, so I mean, you don't owe anything to your biological parents aside from the fact that they gave birth to you, right? Like not to be mean to them, like there are biological families that for other reasons give up their children for like things that happen, but like just because like if they haven't tried to find you beforehand or anything like that, I don't think that you need to stress about what they may or may not be feeling in their lives. I mean, you even mentioned that your biological dad already has another family even before you were born. So it's just like one of those things where it's like your stepsister may have reached out, but if your biological dad hasn't really even tried to reach out, it's like you don't really owe them any kind of real like contact if they're not really trying to find you outside of your stepsister. And then just like you said, like your adopted parents are your parents. And like that was going to be a question I was going to ask is like, do you ever feel like you missed out on having parents since you had adopted parents, or have you ever just always seen your adopted parents as your parents?
I've always seen my adoptive parents as my parents. I mean, so I don't know, they like raised me, clothed me, fed me. They did. You know, they were my parents. They helped me through school, sports. They sat at the table while I traced letters and failed algebra tests and all this other stuff, and helped me study. And so over and over again, they've showed me and pretty much was there for me. So like automatically, like they're my parents. I mean, they, no doubt about it.
Dude, that's pretty awesome. And just thinking about that as an adoptive father, adopting my two children, that's what we hope for. Like we adopted my oldest daughter when she was a year and a half old, and my oldest son, because they were a sibling group. So they're brother and sister. And my son at the time was 3 months, so they're a little over a year apart, and so they only know me and my wife as their mom and dad. But they have the questions, man. Like uh, they have blonde hair, blue eyes, just strikingly gorgeous children. But our belly babies, what we call them, have brown eyes and brown hair, and so the questions always come up like, how come my hair's not brown like hers? And so we've kind of deflected for a while, like, oh, sometimes that's just how God makes us and things like that. And then my oldest daughter's just getting older, and so she asked me the other day. She goes, Dad, did I come from mommy's belly like Charlotte and Schrader? And I was like, uh, uh,
Yeah.
sweetie, I love you. So because she's at that age where she's still too young, maybe, to understand really. Like it's. I want to explain. I'll tell her everything. I don't care. And if she wants to reach out to her mom, I mean, her mom reaches out to us enough to where we know where to find her. So that option's there for her, but we want to be able to explain that in a time where she understands. But I hope that their outlook will be very similar to yours, where it's like, hey man, like y'all are my parents, you know what I mean? And because it could go the opposite direction, where it's like, finally I get a real mom, and they're like, screw you, dad. It's like, oh god.
Yeah, so like that's like something I've read online before where like adopted parents, like that's a common fear among adoptive parents is like they fear that their adopted children will one day find out who their biological parents are and feel feel like no longer love the adopted parents and want to go with the biological parents. I've read stuff online about that, and I think that's a very common fear that like people in your situation, Casey, fall into all the time. I don't think that's just like an isolated incident. I've definitely read about it before. And I mean, and it makes sense. It's an anxiety. Like you're spending all this time raising these children. You love these children. You consider them your children. And then you're like, but they're also not my children kind of thing. So you're always like, well, if they find out they're not me, if they're not from me, they may not want to be with me anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those fears. I don't think it'll ever be that way because unfortunately, when the kids, my adopted kiddos, when they were younger, their father had passed probably about I think a year after the adoption. So 4 years ago he had passed, and their mom is still alive, but so when the whole process started, she left the state of Texas and lived in Pennsylvania. The authorities couldn't get a hold of her, and nobody could get a hold of her. So their father was the only one fighting for them. And now that he's gone, like she's been reaching out and saying, I don't know, she's been kind of mean, but it's not her fault. Like I understand. I don't understand, but I can only imagine what it would feel like in that situation. So, but like I said, she reaches out to us enough to where we have that ability, but we can, show them like, hey, we know who she is if you want to reach out. But legally, like, there's no obligation for visits, there's no obligation for any of that stuff. And like on the birth certificate, social security card, everything, they're ours. Like it says on the birth certificate that, me and Sabrina are mom and dad. So, like it's totally official. But yeah, it's 100% a fear, and I don't doubt that there's a million adoptive parents out there that even with the worst situation, fear that their kiddos will still want to find their adoptive parents because like I mean, or find their biological parents. But I mean, when you were growing up, I mean, how many kids grow up and besides Mark, obviously, love their parents? You know what I mean? Like everyone grows up and thinks that their parents, sucked at some point. You know what I mean? So
Even
to
I
have
thought that.
that
I think that's
to
just a
have
kid
that
thing.
like thought of like, hey, you guys are too strict, you won't let me go see my boyfriend, I'm gonna go hang out with my biological mom, she loves when I hang out with my boyfriend, and it's just like that sucks. But obviously we talked about the Enneagram a couple weeks ago, and so I'm a wing 6, and that's part of that is I always see worst case scenarios. That'll probably never happen, but I always see worst case scenarios.
Yeah, I don't think that's anything you got to worry about, Casey. That's definitely every kid goes through a phase where they hate their children. It's called puberty and hormones,
But
and
they
it
hate
can
their
last
parent.
anywhere. It can last anywhere from 4 to 8 years.
Yeah. For me, it lasted a long time. Yeah. So yeah, I totally understand. But Mark, one final question, man. I was wondering when you were in the foster system, was there anything that happened during that time, and then even in like the earlier stages of being adopted into your now forever family? Um, how has any of those experiences, those interactions, helped shape your entire life? Like, is there anything that you can pinpoint that you can think back to and say, like, that has impacted my life forever?
um, I don't think there's a single instance. Just like one instance. There's just multiple other instances all at once that kind of just come flooding back. Like there's a whole, like good and bad. There's multiple times where like they were always honest with me about the whole like adoption thing, and then the way they accepted me as their own, even at 5.5. And then again with my brother, he was adopted at 2. Um, and how they went about that whole process of letting him know, and both of us realizing that, hey, like they're our parents. Really, that whole process, which was like a 15 to 18-year process, and then some after I graduated and joined the Air Force and all that, really set me up for when I married my wife. And I'm a stepdad to Jackson, our oldest. So as I came into the picture, his dad came into the picture, um, and I always knew like it couldn't be cookie cutter, like, hey, I copy and paste me. It had to be a rocky road. And my fear was like, I'm sure it's like adopted parents, like he's not gonna love me because I'm not the original, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
The original.
the original, but I couldn't come up with another way to say that. But like, and the way, like, I think every parent had that, with you, Casey, you're going through that. My parents went through that. But like, I guess as kids, who showed up, like, who was there, who listened, who like laughed at you when you did something dumb, or, who helped you out when you like skinned your knee on your bike, or who was there to teach you how to ride a bike, who was like anybody, like, who your parents are when they're there, like you see them. So even though that was a struggle for me when I like married my wife, Katie, I was always worried that like I couldn't ever fill that dad role for him, because I jumped headfirst into the whole dad thing. Wasn't ready for it. I was treading water barely, but that was a deep fear for me for a solid year. And then my parents kind of talked some sense into me, and so did my wife, about, hey, like, he'll know, like, kids know, like, who's there for them, who's going to listen to them. It's just, they're smart.
Yeah. They're incredibly smart.
So what my parents did helped me with that whole process, and it's still helping me with that process.
That's good, man. So you still have a relatively good relationship with your parents. You can go to them for anything if you have any questions and stuff like that.
Yes.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I really like that line of, you're like, the kids know when you're there. Like it's such an innocuous phrase, but it's so powerful in what you're saying. It's like kids are way more observant than you think they are, kind of things. Like, especially young kids, they'll let you know if they need something in a way that is more open and honest than adults can. So that's a really powerful word, like you saying, like, they know who you are when you're there. Like that's really kind of, I don't know, it kind of stuck out to me that you would say something like that specific in a way that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's actually extremely accurate. I mean, I think if any of us, including our listeners, like think back on their life at just people that made some sort of impact on them, they'll see, you know what I mean? Like they remember those people forever. And then, for, you guys who are adopted or being fostered, like you see more so that father, that mother who was always there. So that's pretty awesome.
You got any closing thoughts, Mark? You got any additional things you want to mention? Anything else deep or personal that you want to put out there for the people listening on the podcast?
Not really. We pretty much hit it all. It's just a lot of it's. I'm really glad you guys are doing this podcast. A lot of people don't really talk about it. Um, it's just, adoption's there. Like, everybody knows about it, but it's not talked about often, because sometimes it's you adopt one of your own family members, or it's someone completely different, different states. So it's pretty great. I'm glad you guys are really talking about it, and it's pretty neat that what Casey did and is going through. Um, I don't know. It's inspirational. You guys are pretty great.
I
Hey,
appreciate that, man.
yeah, we definitely appreciate it. We're just, hey, if it can help one person, that's all that matters. If it can help one person, we'll do this. We'll do this until I've run out of vocal cords.
Yeah.
Just that one person.
Yeah, that's the main goal, is just reaching out and helping people, more so just letting them understand that they're not alone. You know what I mean? Like, like Tim mentioned earlier, when, I said everything, all my fears about my kids, right? Like, it's a pretty common fear, but I didn't know that. I thought I was just kind of this weird guy, like, worried about my kids wanting their original moms back, as you would put it. And so, and so, yeah, it's nice to know that I'm not alone. And, having people come and listen to the podcast and understand that they're not alone either. you hit the nail on the head, Tim. Like helping one person. If one person could just pick up the headphones and listen and be like, "Dang man, like I'm glad I listened today." Like that's a dream come true right there. That's it.
Yeah, Mark. So definitely let people know down there in Abilene. Definitely tell them about this. Share it. Do all that kind of stuff. Any of y'all listening, please share us. We're trying to get our voices heard so other people can hear it and hopefully do some kind of positive, impactful effects on those people that may need to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. Spread the word. We're on Instagram, Catch My Six. We have a Facebook group also called Catch My Six. Reach out, follow, share this episode, share all the episodes. If you have any feedback on Anchor, you can, on the Anchor website, you can actually leave feedback. You can even leave audio recordings. So if you have any questions for us, if you have any feedback for us, if you just want to lay into us for whatever reason, give it your all. And maybe we'll even feature that recording on our next episode. If you don't want it featured, just let us know. But get the word out there. We're just trying to help people out. And the more you guys put the word out there, like I've heard a lot of people contact me and say that they can relate or they're going to share with your friends or, they're going to, really appreciate what we're talking about, things like that. And, we just ask you to share the word because if you can relate and you feel, positively impacted by what we're talking about, imagine all the other people that can be positively impacted as well. So like, share, follow, comment, feedback, hit us all, hit us all with everything you got. But I think that's it for today's episode. Mark, I appreciate you coming in. It was an awesome time talking to you. We caught up the other day, and I'd love to talk more about what's going on. But for now, I think this is fantastic. And I love this whole topic. Like I said, on the day, Friday the 13th, 5 years ago, I adopted my two. And so it's such an honor to share this day with you and Tim and be doing this podcast for all the listeners who can relate.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome.
Yeah, man, no problem. Tim, if you got nothing else, I think that's it for episode 5.
Nope. Yep. If you think you have a story that is worth being heard, if you want to if you just want to tell your story, also reach out to us for that. We would be more than welcome to have you on the podcast for an episode. Everybody's story is worth hearing. You never know whose experiences will impact somebody else. But besides that, yeah, I ain't got nothing else. It was a good podcast. Good to listen to. Good experiences to hear.
Fantastic. Well, guys, as I always say, always progression, never regression. You can't change yesterday and you can't predict tomorrow. All you've got is today. So if you try and be better today than you were yesterday, you'll always be in that state of progression. You guys have a wonderful night, and we'll see you guys next time.